Guest is Day Christensen, and the founder of global platform DAY1YOGA, and one of the most recognizable yoga teachers in the online space. For years, Day has been redefining the approach to daily practice, proving to thousands of her students around the world that yoga is not everything. That's why she created classes combining yoga with CrossFit when the yoga and CrossFit have a baby. Her signature challenges and training programs have revolutionized home practice, making it accessible, inclusive, and perfectly suited to today's fast-paced lives. And today we are talk about her journey, building an international community, and how to find balance in the world full of distraction. So welcome, Day, to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Do you want to add anything else? Do you want to mention something else about you?
Uh, well, let's just see how the interview goes. But yeah, I mean, fairly accurate. Yeah, I started out in my early 20s doing yoga and Ashtanga yoga specifically, and I practiced Ashtanga yoga for 2 decades, and a lot has happened in that time. I started getting inspired by other things. I found that there were a lot of I was traveling all over the world to teach, and I found that a lot of the people who were practicing yoga on a regular basis were in a state of chronically injured or chronically in pain. And it was just one of the many things that got me questioning what we're doing and why we're doing it and how long you're spending doing it. So for all the time, the money, the energy, all the investment in doing a practice that was largely, and I'm talking worldwide, causing the majority of people to be in a constant state of pain or chronic injury was just one of the red flags for me, where I was ready and willing to change how I was working. And I think that a lot of yoga practitioners, it's a hard thing to do because it starts becoming your identity. It starts becoming your routine, your habit, all these things that they're just very hard to shake. So I think that the way that I position myself now in the yoga world, in many ways and for many years, I didn't even want to be associated with the yoga world, but I've maintained yoga in my name and my brand name, because I feel like it's a necessary bridge into other modalities of training, and trying to help a lot of yogis kind of break the pattern of what they think is acceptable or conventional or traditional and say, look, there are better ways of doing things.
Yeah, okay, because you mentioned about the patterns, so let's stop here because you are quite famous about doing yoga or some poses or some form or protocols in a different way. So first of all, what you are famous of is what you are famous for is like engaging the latissimus dorsi, lats. Do not
Right.
overstretch your elbows, and for example,
Mhm.
what more? For example, because for me
Uh, I,
for me the most important thing was to engage the lats and do not overstretch my elbows. And this for me it was like
yeah.
something really else.
So that those things came naturally to me because I didn't in my practice, I never liked the feeling of hyperextension. My elbows hyperextend. A lot of women's elbows hyperextend, and you're on your hands a lot. Basically, the Ashtanga practice is the yoga asanas, in my estimation, really are designed to loosen up the lower half of your body, specifically your hips and hamstrings, which isn't a bad thing. But it's the volume and the amount and the deep flexibility that becomes problematic. But then on the other side, the yoga practice, the Ashtanga practice, specifically with all the jump throughs and jump backs and chaturangas, etc., you're required to hold a lot of weight in your hands for a lot of the time. And so naturally, that inspires a lot of people to start working on hand strength, hand balancing, handstanding, etc. Um, and with that, it never felt good to me to hyperextend my wrists or my elbows. So I started doing bent arm, slightly bent arm, never locked out, all based on intuition and what felt good and what felt like I can maintain muscle engagement. And then it wasn't until years later that a lot of that was confirmed for me through reading and research and other people saying the same thing in different professions.
But still, not even in Ashtanga, but also with the handstand practitioner, they overuse the traps. So this is another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, so the traps versus the lats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So elevation of your scapula versus depression of your scapula. I mean, people will argue this with me forever and ever, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to the opinion, but here's the reason why. Number one, the very first reason was because that's what felt right to me. It felt good, it felt strong, it felt stable. So the first thing was just experiential. Okay. The second is that the more that I started to learn about pain and injury and, you know, uh, I would say how just your body mechanics, how you're functioning, how your muscles work, I started to discover that you have certain muscles in your body that are tight and have a tendency to stay tight and hold tension and cause pain. And then you have muscles in your body that are inhibited, weak, harder to engage, harder to develop. And so, because of that, the more that I learned about that, I started realizing, hey, this is a new concept. It's just that a lot of people don't know about it, which is the tonic and phasic muscles, and that your traps are tonic. They hold tension. Even at supposed rest, there is tension. This is why people have, just from a normal day at work, people have tension in their shoulders and neck. Why? You didn't lift weights. You weren't doing anything special. You're just sitting around all day. So because of that, I started to learn certain muscles have a tendency to stay engaged and that are composed of primarily slow twitch muscle fibers and endurance muscle fibers, and why our body functions that way. And so I started to recognize that the real benefit to strength training, skill training, etc., was to work on the phasic muscles, the more inhibited muscles, or the antagonists.
So, for example, and maybe that's why Ashtanga started to be so criticized. Um, to be very sincerely, I'm the person, I'm in some sense, I'm ignorant because I criticize Ashtanga, but on the other hand, I
Mhm.
still teach Ashtanga. So it means that I'm attached to um, that I like to touch people. Maybe because I do massage. So that's why I like to do
Well,
the adjustment and alignment. But still, like, can we just stop a minute with Ashtanga? What do you think about the system? But if you think about not like on because in my experience, for the first 2 years, I get a lot of from Ashtanga. It was like my awareness about my body and how I learn asanas, and I get a lot. But after I
mhm.
just begin, I just began the second series. Everything was ruined. Maybe because of the back bendings, maybe because of a kapotasana. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
just ruined my body, and it started after 2 years. So maybe the first years they are fantastic. Fantastic. It's Norwegian word, fantastic. The pronunciation, and But after 2 years, it's not a long life system to continue with a whole life. Maybe only 2 or 3 years. It's quite challenging, but give you a lot of things. But after all,
Well, I think that your average person lacks mobility. So in the beginning, yoga can feel really good, liberating, in fact, because you're living in a body. This was my experience, and I think a lot of people's experience. You're living in a body where you feel like you're not capable or you can't move as well or whatever it may be. And then suddenly you start doing these yoga asanas, which really push you in the direction of flexibility, and you start feeling this sense of, oh, clarity and movement. And you know, and I think that is true for the beginners, for the as you say, first 2 or 3 years. What happens beyond that, you only need so much flexibility. You can only, so where I think that this is going is it's pushing the early years of yoga brings you into the direction of more neutrality, right? You're not so stiff that you can't move. You're bringing yourself back to some sort of equilibrium. But when you go beyond that point, when you break that threshold, I think for a lot of people, what happens is the hyper flexibility, the hyper mobility, the lack of muscle engagement, and that all creates problems. So the big thing, the takeaway in my opinion, is you want to be able to move any and every joint to full range of motion with the ability to return to neutral. And what happens when you keep doing a lot of the same movements over and over and over again, specifically back bending, right, is that you start staying in that state of hyperextension in your lower back. So you don't return to neutral. So when you're walking, when you're standing, you maintain this really deep back bend where you shouldn't necessarily, right? So what starts happening is people can't return to neutral, they lose their muscle engagement, lose muscle mass. And so you can see that across practitioners, longtime practitioners, they're not well muscled, they're skinny, right? They look weak, they look gaunt. Okay, so it's not a system that allows for this idea of, in theory it does. It asks for balance, equilibrium, neutrality, but what it really winds up with is extreme flexibility. It keeps pushing in this direction of this linear path. You start out here, you start out in primary series with these more or less simple poses, and you work your way up to the more and more complicated expressions of essentially the same movements. What are they? I mean, we can only move in certain ways: flexion, extension, rotation, external hip rotation, internal hip rotation. You can only do certain things, and a certain number of things with your body. So the idea is you just keep taking it more and more and more extreme, and I think that that's where it becomes problematic.
and the story now we I have heard about, not a lot, but some proof that people have hip replacement. This is something that I was always scared about, because my left
Yeah.
hip is more stiff than the right one. So
Yes.
this story is quite scary. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice, for example, to people who are thinking about going for the first time to Ashtanga yoga class, for example, to Mysore or to primary series guide, or somebody who just think something is going wrong with my body after a year or 2 years. Should I continue or should I do something else?
Well, I think that's the problem, is that once you get indoctrinated into the culture, the general consensus among Ashtanga practitioners and teachers is to, quote unquote, quote Patabi Joyce, practice and all is coming. And so they think that continuing is the answer, and that pain and injury is part of the answer. It's part of the journey. It's the opening. And so what happens is you start taking these people and pushing them into the system rather than making the system adapt to the people. The people have to perform the deep yoga asanas. They have to go through the series. They have to go through step A, B, and C, and you can't skip, right? You're not allowed to say, well, I have such and such issue, and doing such and such movement would be really beneficial. And so I see that there's a few poses down the line that might actually help my problem. But no, 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 you have to go through these first. And they can be real, quote unquote, gatekeepers, where people are stuck in certain asanas for a really long time that are actually not benefiting them. They're making their problems worse, exacerbating postural dysfunctions. And so at this point in my life, if somebody told me that they were interested in starting Ashtanga yoga, I'd tell them not to. I'd say, I mean, if they were really asking my advice, I'd say, don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay, so
That,
if
yeah.
not, so if not Ashtanga, maybe some other style of yoga, or maybe something.
Stretch, no yoga. First of all, anything and everything can be yoga, right? So when people talk about what is yoga is the idea of yoke, union, connecting mind to body to spirit, perhaps more love and light. You can have that anything. There's runner's high. There's people who do all kinds of sports who quote unquote get in the zone or a state of um, what you would call dharana or dhyana meditation, something like that. Why is it limited to this one thing that's relatively new, yoga asana, right? Yoga asana pre Krishnamacharya was like two things. It was like seated asanas, lotus, and maybe like some kind of kneeling position or something. It wasn't complicated. Now it's become this complicated thing, and that was really exciting for a while. But now that we're starting to see the long-term effects, it's, to me, not worth the time, energy, or effort if you're not getting full benefit from the practice, right? So it's problematic, I think.
But if you have never ever started in your life Ashtanga, so probably you will
Yeah.
never interesting about handstand, or you will, or you would.
I mean, people are interested in handstands with or without yoga. You're either interested in it or you're not, and that's fine. But calisthenics, gymnastics, that those guys, CrossFit. It's in CrossFit. Handstand push-ups, handstand walk. I mean, it is a display of athleticism and control and focus and skill, depending on how you do it. And it's interesting to some people. Doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be through the path of yoga. That happened to be my path, but if I had to do it all over again, I would do it differently.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who you are now, for example, how you define yourself now, like a sports woman, like a CrossFit woman, like who you are now. you are not like a Ashtanga
Well,
practitioner.
right. Well, I think that was part of the danger in practicing, was that it was an identity. I am an Ashtangi. I am an Ashtanga teacher. It is my practice. It is my life. It is my career. Everything revolves around that. I think that's the problem. I think I'm less willing to define myself now and say that I'm more, part of aging, part of maturity, part of growth is to say, like, I'm not going to identify with any one thing. I'm identifying with what really matters to me, which is health, growth, fitness, capabilities, being able to move through the world strong and, intelligent and confidently. So wherever I am in that stage, I wouldn't say it's the end. I couldn't say I'm at this defining moment where this is who I am now. I'm less defined now than I was in my early 20s when I was doing yoga very seriously.
I'm asking because when you are talking, I'm also thinking about myself, and my priority is that I like to sweat, and I like to
Hmm.
move, and this is why I choose for example, even your method, even your program is that I wish to do something which is very difficult, and I'm also sweat. So maybe that's why I was addicted about Ashtanga, that I like sweats a lot,
Mhm.
and in this
Mhm.
moment I felt comfortable. So maybe, yeah, because yeah, I used to do a lot of things, but basically it was
Mhm.
about doing a lot, like move a lot and sweat. So that's why I didn't
Yeah.
stuck with Iyengar yoga. I just moved to Ashtanga.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I was attracted to Ashtanga for very similar reasons. Of all the styles of yoga that there are, Ashtanga was in a position that felt like this is the most athletic form of yoga. And I was coming from an athletic background. I played sports in high school. That's what I was missing in my life, was feeling like I was part of a team, that there was a little bit of competition, that I had a coach, that I had, there was an accountability, because there was a set time. My source starts at whatever it was, 6 a.m. And so all of those things were spoke to me, because that's what I was missing in my life. Going from high school into college, I went to an art school, which is very cerebral and like very not physical. It can be, but not really. so, so going from a very athletic place to a very mental place, more, um, during those years, I felt like I was missing something. Once I got through the other end of the upper education, I felt like that was the one thing that I wanted to go back to, was some sort of athleticism. And yoga felt like the easiest, the path of least resistance. I felt, quote unquote, too old to be in team sports. That's not entirely true, but at that stage, that's what I felt. And yoga provided a lot of that, the discipline, the coaching. You just call it different things, but it was in there, it was wrapped into that system. And I think that it was trending at that time. It was the early 2000s, okay, and it was big. There was a lot of vinyasa yoga and people out of California, and all kinds of different styles of yoga emerging. Everybody had their own style, and it was the thing to do. It was like, oh, yoga's the best full body exercise that you can do. It's the best thing that you can do. And I think that people now understand that there are better things, there are more effective things now. And certainly yoga has fallen out of favor. More people are trading their yoga mats for dumbbells. Just is. It just is. It's more effective. It is.
Mm.
People are missing the resistance training, the strength training, the intensity of just dealing with moving weight.
I have this question, and I think it's very important right now. So, where do you get the most of your knowledge from? Like from books, podcasts, courses. Um, so, how you get the
E-
knowledge right now?
Everywhere, everywhere. I'm not anything that comes to me is I'll take it in to a certain extent. Yeah, books, a little bit of podcasts. Even I hate to say it, there's a ton of really great people on Instagram. There's also a lot of trash on social media, so you have to. It's like everything, you have to be able to kind of sift through it. But I'm not like one form. I'm willing to take in anything from anyone and kind of hear it out. So a little bit of everything, I would say.
I'm a big fan of the Huberman Lab, so I like to listen him and his podcast, and from time to time I listen Joe Rogan Experience,
Hmm.
just
Sure,
to just to have some knowledge, the fresh news. Uh,
sure, yeah.
a- Another thing is about the aging. So maybe because I started to think about that I'm getting older. Do you have such a question? Do you have such a thoughts about yourself that you are going to be older?
Well, there's no choice, really. I mean, it's maybe not what we are all looking forward to, but ever since I was young, I heard adults say, "Oh, getting older is not fun." And there's lots, "Oh, you don't hear as well, you don't see as well, you don't move as well." And hearing that grow up from the generation before me, my parents' generation, hearing that be the constant sentiment, I knew from a very early age, I made the decision that's not going to be me. That's not me. So I I keep that with me. And then I also feel like this sense of resentment. And I'm not saying the way that I feel is right. So those of you who are out there doing this, but there are a lot of people who post for the 40 and up or the 50 and up or 60 and up, or this is specifically for men or women who are in a certain phase of their life. And I was always really anti that. I'm always like, it really has nothing to do with your chronological age. It has to do with your biological age. And now people are starting to understand that with telomeres and testing biology versus chronology, and knowing that there are people who are well in their 70s and 80s who have the bodies. Now, it's not common, but they have the body or the biology of somebody much, much younger. So we know that that's possible. So I hate to be defined by age. It's my own sense of rebellion, I guess, but it's never anything that I ever feel like I should or need to discuss. Yeah, we're getting older. I'm getting older. Big fucking deal. Well, let's just move on and keep doing what we're doing, right? Let's make the best out of it. So that's kind of my sentiment.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I just came across that I started to have more and more gray hairs, and it's like, and I'm just thinking about like what? I can't believe
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand, but hey, just again, I have this attitude of just keep pushing, keep doing what you do. I'm not going to change my lifestyle just because there's another candle on my cake. I just don't care. I actually feel like I'm at the stage where I just stop celebrating birthdays. I think that's a really healthy place to be. Just who cares? It's not, even Prince said that. Like, you only had one birthday, the day you were born. That's it. Everything else, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's a grim reminder otherwise. So why bother thinking about it?
It's very good advice.
Yeah, yeah.
I have also a question about some emotional reaction. So, do you still bother about people, or can you handle that somebody just get under your skin? Do you have any feelings? Are you struggle
People
with
get under my skin. People get under my skin a lot less than they used to. I'll tell you what. Well, the thing is that no matter what you do, if you're a people pleaser, right, somebody's going to criticize you for agreeing with the majority. So if you're in that state of mind where you're constantly trying to make peace or say the right thing, you're still going to have criticism. So you might as well just say what you feel and live your life and do you. And not, no matter what, you're going to have people who like you and people who hate you, people who love what you say and people who disagree with what you say. So you might as well speak what you feel is true. So how can I be bothered by that? People with opinions. I also have opinions. Fine. So I'm less bothered by it now.
so you're probably very patient person. Do you yes or
No,
not? Because
I have my moments. you
Yes,
know?
and I'm asking about that because I would like to be very calm and,
Yeah.
but I cannot. Usually, I just lose my temper and react very fast. And sometimes, and after all, I'm ashamed about myself that I react so spontaneously, and that I'm asking what you usually do. Just close your eyes, and I don't see it. I'm not bothered about this. What is your method about some people?
The majority of the time, I feel like most things do not require a response. And most of the time, people who, I mean, I can only guess at what you're pointing at specifically. But if somebody comments on something that I post and disagrees or has some rant or strong criticism or whatever, usually what I do is I just say thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your opinion, and just move on and just move on. And that's it. There's no sense in arguing, and there's no sense in getting upset about it. It's again, there's going to be a million opinions out there. It's just one of those things.
But
Every once in a while, something will make me feel like it requires a response,
you
and
are
then I will take my time.
But you are in very good position because you just do the online classes. So, in the real
Yeah.
life, your reaction could be different when you just have some people in the real class. So it will be like, maybe I just want to, I don't want to use some specific words about describing such people, but when you just conduct classes online, you can always push the red button and bye bye
Sure,
or something.
sure.
But
But you can do that in real life too. You can have somebody who's maybe combative or argumentative or whatever in real life, and you can push the red button in real life too. You just say the same, walk away. Thank you. Thank you for your opinion. See ya. Just, you don't have to engage, right? Part of it is like, it's my own energy. It's me protecting my what I care about, right? Like, I care about my energy, I care about my time, I care about my emotional state. So if I'm going to let somebody affect my emotional state, which I don't love doing, I don't love somebody else having that sense of power over me. So generally speaking, it doesn't happen. Of course, there are times and people and moments that I can think back to where like someone really upset me. But I, I just find my sense of peace way too valuable at this point to let it happen that often.
it seems for me that you are very easygoing girl, like that you are very, like,
Yeah,
calm
I try to be.
and
I try.
I also
Yeah,
try, but
some are
sometimes,
better than others, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, but sometimes I have such a aha moment, and I just wow.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm asking, because I'm still worried about that. That's why that because of this situation, I just lose some people, and I'm worried about this. That
You're always you're always going to lose people. You're worried about losing clients, students, whatever it is. You're always going to lose people. You're always going to lose people. But if you're smart, you're always going to gain people. So there's always going to be a constant influx of people coming and going. And so again, that goes back to, don't try to people please, just do what you're going to do anyway, because people are going to come or going to go. If somebody really wants to work with you, they're going to make it happen. So you should not be making decisions based off of what people want, because you never really know what people want. You only know what you want. You got to do that, right? I mean, that goes with everything, scheduling, things like that. Like a lot of yoga teachers or people in the fitness world, or they schedule their clients first and then their workouts second. I think that's a huge problem. you got to prioritize your own training, your own workouts, your own practice, whatever the heck you're doing. You got to do that first. You can't pour from an empty cup. So do what you're going to do, take care of yourself, and the right people will follow. And some right people will follow for the right amount of time, and then that time will be over. You can't force people to stay in your circle. Okay.
Okay, I will not comment this because I just wanted to say something, but maybe not.
You can. Sure, go ahead. You might as well say
Yeah,
it. I mean, that's the point, like, let's not censor ourselves. You might as well say what you want to say. So go ahead.
yeah. I was thinking about some teachers or some people, they just force the students just stay with me forever.
Desperate, acts of desperation and insecurity. I've known many, many, many teachers, yoga teachers, who have felt that way. Where, for instance, I would go to different cities, and some cities were more prevalent than others, where I was teaching in there would be students there in the workshop or the seminar or whatever I was doing, and they would say, well, please don't post this because I don't want my teacher to see that I've come to do the workshop with you, because he would be so mad at me. Or I'd hear the wrath of training with somebody else, and it's like, look, some of my best, first of all, people outgrow people. Okay, some of my best students over the years have moved on and go to train with other people, and that's okay. It's fine. You can't keep people locked into place forever. And I think that that's part of the Ashtanga, the Ashtanga world, the Ashtanga community. They're desperately hanging on for people, I think, in a lot of ways, especially now with Sharat gone, Patabi Joyce is gone. What's going to happen now? There's a bunch of, I'm not even really sure what's going on in Mysore, but I'm pretty certain that that the people who are running the shala are just some authorized and certified students from throughout the years. I think that's pretty much what's happening. But I think that this is going to be now just a little bit more divided than when it's been, as far as this practice goes, as far as the Shanga goes. Yeah.
I'm asking because I used to be such a person that I would love to have some attention from my students. And I really love when they just at least like me. I didn't control, like, do not go to anybody else, but I love to be, I love to have attention, like, yeah, I'm like able, I'm the one. I like this
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we're human. I think everybody likes to be liked, and everybody wants to feel valuable. And that's really the thing, is like, you want people to recognize your value, which is different than holding people in a box and saying, this is your prison, you can't escape. People are going to see your value more and more when you have an open door, right? When you're free to come and go, there's people can appreciate that, versus feeling like they're like stuck in a method, or with a teacher, or with a specific style or way of doing things. People want freedom, plain and simple.
True, correct. So I'm still thinking about. So what do you do now a day? I know you do swim. You swim a lot.
Yeah.
What about else? What do
Yeah.
you do for your regular routine for the schedule?
Yeah, so I found I've swam most of my life, and when I was doing Ashtanga, there were periods of time when I stopped swimming because it made my shoulders tight, or it made, certain things, some poses inaccessible. And I realized that I didn't. First of all, let's put it this way. First of all, swimming brings me a lot of joy. Um, Even on the difficult days, jumping in a pool, that right temperature, that right little chill, that, man, that does something to me that I can't explain. It wakes me up in a way. When I come in, I walk to the pool and I have no energy, and then I suddenly jump in and I'm like, and I'm going. There's something magical about that for me. And I realize that it's not something I should give up regardless. So that's really become my priority, because I know the physiological and psychological effects. It just really works on me. Um, so with that, I think, let's go back to the yoga before I answer your question fully, is I don't feel like yoga should exclude other activities, which is what a lot of yoga teachers in my experience have taught. Oh, don't ride a bike to the shala because it'll make your hips tight, or don't run because it'll make your hamstrings tight, or don't swim because it'll make your shoulders tight. And basically what you're saying is yoga is going to restrict your life versus saying yoga should open up a world of experiences. So I think that there was something wrong there, right? Yoga should help enable people to do more of what they want, not restrict people from doing things they want. And so I think that that was a huge problem, with, again and again, it goes back to that sort of insecurity where people are like, well, no, all you should need is me. All you should need is me as your teacher in this practice, and that's it, nothing more. Fear of losing people to other modalities, when that's the point. You're supposed to be able to do whatever your yoga practice is to enable and inspire. So, yes, I've certainly dropped yoga asana. Um, I swim just about every day, 5, 6 days a week. I do CrossFit. I lift, I do those things, a little bit of handstand work, not much. I've found that I just don't need that much to do it, to maintain it. And I'm not really ambitious about it anymore. I'm way more ambitious about other things like functionality and being able to lift weights and, things like that. So those are my priorities.
Do you have any injuries right now, or like?
I do. Yeah, I do. I did something kind of goofy on a overhead lift where I widened out my stance because I was feeling like a little bit of tendonitis, and it actually made it worse, but fairly common to get a little bit of that golfer's elbow, you know, um, medial epicondylitis. So, I get that. It comes up here and there in my life, yeah, and I am experiencing it a little bit right now, but I know what to do. So yeah.
Anything
So
else
anyway, but that's
to
it.
anything else to rejuvenate? Like, I don't know. I used to be a big fan of cold bath
Yeah.
before coming to Norway. But now when I live in
Yeah.
Norway,
Yeah.
I just omit ocean and any and the cold river. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you do also like do you do any like anything else, anything specific like a cold bath, or I don't know.
I love that hot cold sauna, cold plunge. Um, maybe part of my ancestral heritage, something in me really does love that. But I do live in a tropical environment. I don't have that available to me, in the same way that you do. Um, but I promised myself, my best and my first experience doing cold plunge was with a group in Ireland, and it was one of the best things ever. I mean, um, hard, and I fought the whole way probably, but one of the really best times I ever did it was my very first time. And then trying to recreate that experience in a plastic tub with ice cubes doesn't really do it for me in the same way. So I don't do cold plunging on a regular basis. I kind of do it when I'm in the environment and I can be out in nature and do it. But if the opportunity comes up, I do it.
Mhm. Something else?
Yeah. I mean the sauna, and the most important thing is strength training, sleep. Try to have as good of nutrition as possible in the United States. Not always that easy. Um, And yeah, those are the big things. But it's really important for me to take a nap every day.
What about sauna?
That's the
How
truth.
how many times do you do during the week?
I I don't now I don't have a specific protocol. I have at certain times because I don't know what is her name, Susanna Soberg made basically did some research, a Danish scientist who discovered kind of the perfect amount of cold exposure and hot or sauna exposure, and it was something like 11 minutes per week of cold, and then like 54 5 or 6 minutes of sauna of heat exposure. But like I get heat exposure all the I just walk outside and there's heat exposure, so I'm not like, I don't chase it. If I get the opportunity to do it, I do it. But I was pretty religious about it for a while, but now I'm not so much.
Yes. Maybe the last
Mhm.
question. Okay. So, if you just could sit down with your younger yourself and knowing everything you know now, what will you change? What you will tell yourself?
Well, I mean that I did say if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't do it, but maybe I would. I don't know. It's certainly all of it brought me here to my understanding. Like, there's a huge part of me that's like, man, I wish I could have skipped 20 years of Ashtanga and just went right to the good stuff, which is just strength training and swimming and But on the other hand, it was an entry point for me to get back into a physical discipline. And so for that, I'm grateful. And that I think that that's what makes it still relevant for people now, is that it's replacing something else. It is a form of addiction, I think, but I think it's replacing maybe a less desirable addiction, and putting your focus and your energy into something that is somewhat more positive and healthy. So for that, it's hard for me to say if I would do it differently. Because it certainly brought me here. It brought me to what my understanding is, and what my training is now. But I wish I could fast track it a little bit, and get to the good stuff. Yeah.
Do you think I should stop teaching Ashtanga? I stop it online,
Well,
but in real life I still doing it because this is, for me, it is the
well,
most comfortable method to teach somebody who is the beginner.
well. I can't answer that question for you, but it's hard for me to teach something that I don't believe in. So for me, it's a question of
Mm.
integrity and authenticity, versus, like, if I know in my heart that there are better ways of doing things, then I don't know how to not share that, right? I don't know how to say, well, let's do it the longer, more inefficient way where you lose muscle mass and wind up with a lot of pains and injuries, versus saying, let's do a 20-minute strength training session. To me, it's hard to continue to operate in a modality that you're no longer believing in or a part of. So I don't know, Renya. Only you can answer that. I will say also, like, there are people, and I think it's okay to retire from a practice and then have the knowledge to continue it. That's different. Like, if you're a basketball player and you retire and then you become a basketball coach and you're no longer playing basketball, do you still have every right to coach? Absolutely. I'm not going to do this forever. I'm not going to handstand forever. I already know I don't want to. Like, I just don't want to, but I also know that there's benefit, and I live the life, I walk the walk. I can continue to coach it without necessarily training it, and that's fine because I still believe in it. just because I'm not doing it myself. That's different than saying I'm going to teach something and I just totally don't believe in the method. So anyway, that's kind of how I guide what I'm doing, what I'm sharing with the world.
Yeah, I got you, but still, on the other hand, what I think it's harder to teach what you do than do Ashtanga. So teaching Ashtanga, I think it's very easy. This is the easiest thing in
It
some
is.
sense.
It is easy. It is easy. All you have to do is memorize asana names and vinyasa counts. It is easy. It is easy. There's no real teaching required, right? There's no real teaching required. Most Ashtanga teachers can't teach the movements that they are telling people to do. Do a jump back, jump through, jump back. Most people can't teach that. They just tell people what to do. And so it is easy. And actually, that's why I got into teaching, was because it was easier than what I was doing. I was painting houses for a living, and I was working as a freelance artist, and I was doing murals, and I was supporting myself through teaching painting classes and all kinds of stuff. But mostly I was like climbing ladders and building scaffolds and lugging like, 5-gallon jugs of paint around. And I was like, or I can stand barefoot in shorts and a sports bra and a t-shirt in front of people and just talk. I was like, that's a lot easier. And that's literally how I started teaching more than I started painting, until it just came to be that was my main thing, because that's all I was doing. Practicing, teaching, that's it, over and over and over again. But it did start from, hey, this is easier. Now I know a little bit better. It's not all easy, but that's kind of how I did it. That's kind of how I got into it. So I understand.
But yeah, I'm still thinking about also the practitioners, the students, that is also easier
Mhm.
to learn Ashtanga, because what you do, I think, is very sophisticated. It's very complex. For me, it's challenging. It's the hardest workout I have ever done in my life, and I did a lot. So
Mhm. Mhm.
because because of a specific movement, and it's challenging, but it's also time consuming. It's not so easy. After 2 years of practicing Ashtanga, mostly you can do a lot.
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
with your training, I'm quite maybe frustrating. I'm a little bit like, I
Well,
cannot do it so easy. I thought I
well,
could.
understood. So that's with skill-based training. Anything that's skill-based, which is handstanding, anything that's skill-based is going to, it's almost like a lifelong practice. It's something that you're going to, there's no end in sight. You're never going to reach the top one day and be like, now I'm the best handstander in the world. There's always going to be people who can do better, who do differently, so it's one of those things. It's like very similar to learning how to play violin or something like that. It's like, it's hard and complicated and requires a ton of skill, right? But there are ways that average people can use handstanding, which is actually what I'm in the middle of developing now, where handstanding is fun and less about skill and more about just a fun way to stay interested in your fitness routine, right? So what I'm starting to move into, I'm not getting rid of the skillful movements of my protocol, of my training, of my program. But what I'm starting to work on and develop is where anybody can do these workouts that include handstanding, but it's still going to provide a really great workout, a really great stimulus. It will build muscle, it will improve your athleticism. And because handstands are in it, rather than beating yourself up because you're not the best handstander in the world or because you haven't developed the skills, you just use it as a way to keep things interesting and fun and enjoy it. And that's really what I want it to be. I mean, let's face it, not every, no, it's not necessary for everybody to be the most skillful handstander. Like, we're not going for gold medals here. We're not going for $1 million prizes. We're not trying to be on the Wheaties box. So you might as well just have fun with it. Don't beat yourself up because you've been training handstands for so long and you can't do what you wanted to do. Like, it's supposed to be fun. And that's, I think, another problem with the Ashtanga and the yoga, and that mentality is like you beat yourself up if you didn't get to a certain point or get the certain pose or do the certain thing or be able to bind the certain, it's just like, that's not the point. The point isn't the pose. The point is that you look good, feel good, you're healthy, you're strong, you're fit, you're able, not that you can have the perfect expression of a posture. It's all about the process, right?
But at least you have the better than the other when you do the handstand, even if you overuse your wrist, but in your mindset, yeah, I achieved this point. So it means that you are a better teacher and better practitioner because you can do the handstand without the walls, for example. You know what I mean?
I
This
can
is
do it. I
something
can do.
that
I can do. Yeah, I mean, I can do a handstand without a wall, but I've been working on handstands for 20 years, over 20 years. I've come a long way. I got to tell you, like when I first started doing yoga, I was very uncomfortable going upside down. Even in headstand. Headstand, I could do it, but it took me a long time to feel comfortable there. And I was totally amazed by people who would do it, even headstand, let alone handstand. And the people who were doing like handstand in the middle of the room and totally unafraid to fall, were cartwheeling all over. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm such a control freak that like if I wanted to do handstands, I had to find the most controlled way of doing it because I was not willing to fall. Right. So I developed it out of a sense of being a little bit OCD and being afraid of hurting myself. So that's why I handstand the way that I do, slow, controlled. I that that's just my personality. Yeah.
so the next course, the handstand course, is gonna be the next week or when it begin?
Well, the handstand course is anyone can do it. You just purchase it on my website, day1yoga.com. Anyone can sign up for the handstand course. It's me and one other person who does my admin work. We'll set you up with the course. You're welcome to do it. If and when you do it, then you're eligible to train with me. It is a prerequisite for training with me because my training sessions are super short. They're only 30 minutes long. And so it is really meant for training. In other words, not workshopping, demoing, explaining what movements are, exercises are. There's an expectation that you know what those things are coming in. And they're somewhat of a level playing field. So if anybody wants to start training with me, recognize that they're going to be in a class with people who have potentially been training for months or years with me. So in order to be able to come into the program without me interrupting everybody else's training, I require that handstand course.
Totally
Mhm.
recommended.
You recommend it, you're saying?
Yes.
Well, that's nice. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes.
If
Good.
somebody is listening and thinking about to come, so go.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
they so do you want to mention anything else? Do you want to add anything else?
Um, no, not really. I mean, just, the thing that I wish for people is, especially people who are in yoga right now, is to remember why you got into it. And if it's similar to why I think most people get into it is for their own health, their own sense of well-being, their fitness, they want to look better, feel better, perform better, then make that be your primary goal rather than getting wrapped up into the idea of Ashtanga is the way, Ashtanga is the answer, and then you lose your reason, and the reason starts to become the practice for the practice itself, to do the poses, to because you're wrapped up in an entity. I think that that's where it can get dangerous. uh, so I would tell people who are in that, I would say, prioritize yourself, prioritize your goals, your own well-being, and don't let it get wrapped up in any one methodology, including my own. There are tons of people in my program who I encourage to do other things. Martial artists to train martial arts, and swimmers to swim, and runners to run, and like, please do those things. Please do those things for yourself. I think it's important. Yeah.
Okay, Day, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy. Are you happy?
Of course I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm absolutely happy.
Okay, so
Okay.
thank you once again. Thank you for being with me. If anybody is gonna listen this, thank you for staying with us. 1 hour. Oh
Absolutely.
my
Thank you so
god.
much. Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Renya.
Yes. See you next time.
See you next time.
Yes. Bye.